Greetings, Ranger fans. Jake here for a deeper look at Episode 5 of Power Rangers Dino Fury, Winning Attitude. But first, a rapid run-through. Let's kick off the counter. It's morphin' time! Okay, so we open at the track where Izzy is training with her cousin Lily, Special Olympic medal winner Lily, who's training her for a race through Greenlee Woods until the others show up to bring her Solon, who's got a lead on the green and black Zords in Greenlee Woods, but needs to build a device to find them. Meanwhile, Jane and Jayborg put on a show for kids in the park, telling them if they see a Sporix, call 5550172, the Rangers will come and help you. So of course the Sporix shows up, panic, and then hatches into Brine Blast. More panic! But the kids call the hotline before running away, so when Mucus and Boomtower join the monster, the Rangers show up to fight them, showing off their boost keys against the henchmen while the monster pulls some dirty tricks. Think of my little fishies! And Javi duels Boomtower until they retreat. Izzy runs back to training, and the rest go get supplies for Solon's device to track the Zords. But Mucus overhears and tells Void Knight, who builds the drill bomb to destroy the Zords, while Izzy trains, but Lily's late because she was helping her friend Mona shop because winning isn't everything. But Izzy doesn't like this excuse and tells her off, but later at the race she learns that Mona's in a wheelchair and needed help getting groceries, so she feels guilty, not gassy. But the race is starting and she needs to beat the girl who's been giving her the evil eyes. And the others get called away because Brine Blast has grown giant and tossed Jane and Jayborg into a runaway dumpster. That's a moving violation. But then Izzy sees Evil Eye Girl trip and fall and remembers that winning isn't everything. So she stops to get her medical aid, but before she can get back to racing, she overhears Boomtower and Mucus playing the drill bomb in the mountainside, so she morphs to fight them, but they run away, so she calls the others, but they're fighting Brine Blast, so she comes up with a plan. Run away! Because then they can lure Brine Blast to the mountain to blast the mountain with his brine, freeing the buried Tiger Claw Zord before the bomb can take it out, and so she combines it with the Dino Fury Megazord to create claw formation using Jet Boost and taking out Brine Blast with the Dino Mega Slash. And they win! But when they go to grab the superpowered Sporix egg from the forest, Boomtower grabs it first because winning isn't everything? But they're still working to track down the next Zord, and Izzy returns to finish the race and then apologizes to Lily for being too harsh, but Lily's proud of her for helping Evil Eye Girl and gives her Special Olympic medal for sportsmanship, and everyone congratulates her. Roll credits. And that's the end of the episode. Now, let's take a deeper look. So this was something of a classic moral of the day style episode, which has been a staple of the franchise since its inception. A character makes a mistake and then learns from it, with another character imparting the intended lesson that everyone else is meant to grab onto. However, this episode also made use of a different trope that I don't believe Power Rangers has ever done before in its over 27-year-long history, by bringing in a special guest celebrity to help convey that message. Specifically, a special guest athlete. And they chose a Special Olympics athlete to do this with, which is kind of amazing. Izzy and Javi's cousin Lily is portrayed by real-life Special Olympics athlete Sarah Dalton, who has been a part of Special Olympics New Zealand for the past 10 years, and is noted on their website as an athlete leader and kindness superstar, as well as a Special Olympics global messenger for the class of 2019. In real life, Sarah is actually an equestrian athlete, rather than a track star, and her intellectual disability is a result of Charge Syndrome, which impacts her senses, balance, and multiple organs. If you would like to learn more about Sarah and the challenges that Charge Syndrome presents, she's also been the subject of a short documentary called Living with Charge Syndrome, which you can find through the link below. And I have to say, all the kindness and positivity that the character of Lily conveys in this episode, that's pure Sarah. And it's great that this is what they chose to focus on, rather than making her disability the entirety of her character. You can also kind of excuse the fact that Lily doesn't particularly look like she's related to the Garcias, because the point of this casting lies in a different form of inclusivity and authenticity, presenting strong and genuine representation that allows children with intellectual disabilities to feel seen and valued, while simultaneously teaching other children about those inherent human values. This sort of representation is very much in line with the core values of the Power Rangers franchise, which had featured several disabled characters in the past, with deafness being explored all the way back in the 6th episode of the series through the character of Melissa, dyslexia with Alan and Joe in Season 3, and blindness with Penny during Power Rangers Zeo. However, with the exception of Master Swoop in Power Rangers Jungle Fury, we haven't really seen any other representation of disability since those very early days. So for the show to actually cast a notable representative from the local disabled community isn't just the show getting back to its roots, but also learning to grow from there. Now, let's get back to the episode's actual moral of the day. Specifically, that helping people is more important than winning a competition. A sentiment that is initially conveyed by Lily, then later recalled and demonstrated by Izzy before being reaffirmed by them both in the final scene, following the classic Rule of 3 structure. While they are a bit over-expository with this message, it's still fairly appropriate considering the intended age range, with the only real issue in execution being the initially manufactured conflict between Izzy and Lily, as there's no real reason presented for why Lily couldn't have better communicated that she was running late, especially since she's otherwise portrayed as a disciplined and timely coach. But the fact that Lily acts as the role model for helping others, rather than being a prop for other characters to help, is truly fantastic. Personally speaking, and professionally in my career as a high school teacher, I have known a number of people in my life with different disabilities, and seeing that genuine desire to inject the world with kindness and pay it forward is a wonderful aspect of the disabled community to see put on display in a children's television program. So, before we get too choked up, let's talk about some other aspects of the episode, and how well this moral of the day is blended thematically with the adaptation of the source material, along with how well it takes inspiration from that source material while still telling its own story. Apart from the parallel between Izzy racing her rival through the woods and the Dino Fury Megazord racing to lure Brine Blast through the woods, the original episode of Kishiryu Sentai Ryusoulger, Dragon and Tiger, Fastest Battle, was one that focused on the competitiveness of the Green Ranger, but there it was in a completely different context. You see, Ryusoul Green and Ryusoul Black really were not team players during their early days, with Green flat out challenging Ryusoul Red to a competition before they'd considered joining the team. This actually puts a whole new context on Izzy fighting alongside Zato during their initial battle against the henchmen, as in the original scene, it was actually Toa and Ko working against each other to see who could take out the most foot soldiers. While the original scene was fun and entertaining, I can totally see why they cut it down, as that conflict is functionally transplanted into Izzy's rivalry with the new girl, Fern, rather than as a conflict with Zato. Unfortunately, this does lead to one of the choppier editing moments of the episode, as the removal of those more comedic combat sequences does disrupt the pacing of the scene, giving us a big lead-in with Zato and Izzy activating their boost keys, but then failing to really utilize those boost keys in battle, before immediately cutting to them chasing Brine Blast in their default Ranger forms. However, the translation of a monster that was literally manifested from the emotions of a father wanting to play with his child into a monster flat out begging for mercy on behalf of his fictional children was genuinely funny and a nice nod to the original material. In fact, that brings us to another element that this episode actually handled rather well, and that was the integration of its humor. As I've stated before, the show has been somewhat struggling with the smooth integration of the comedic character of J-Borg, but now she and Jane are slowly falling into the role of characters that alternate between seeking out the sporks for reporting and running away from them out of self-preservation, feeling almost like a blend between Bulk and Skull and Cassidy and Devon, but still more well-meaning than either of those pairs during their early stages of development. The scene with them and the kids in the park was not only cute and warm and genuinely fun, but it fit with Buzz Blast's role in championing the Ranger hotline, as well as Jane's authoritative bravado and J-Borg's obedient bumbling, while simultaneously providing a smooth segue into the Sentai footage set on a children's playground. Also, that song was absolutely delightful, and the joy on Stan's face while serving as the camera operator really helped sell the whole thing. Honestly, I would not be opposed to Power Rangers having more puppet shows. Even their later scene does serve the purpose of finding a humorous way to draw the Rangers away from Izzy's race to fight the giant Brine Blast, with the funniest part of it being Jane struggling to keep enough of a level head to call up the Rangers, even as they are both clearly panicking from their apparent mortal peril. Once again, Dino Fury's greatest strength appears to be its attention to character, and its humor is definitely at its best when it's not based on gimmicks like wacky technology, but instead when the comedy is able to flow naturally from the characters themselves. Much like Izzy's gas. Sorry, I couldn't resist. It was a nice moment of awkwardly relatable family familiarity. Dino Fury is also continuing its trend of setup and payoff for future episodes, as the introduction of the green and black Dino Keys in the previous episode segues directly into the search for their Zords here, although only the Tiger Claw Zord gets a proper debut, and they take full opportunity to show it off. It's a nice touch they went through the trouble of establishing Solon developing a tracker for the Zords without actually utilizing it in this episode, not only laying the groundwork for finding other Zords in the future, much like the E-Tracer back in Power Rangers Dino Charge, but also providing a rare moment of the show actually taking its time in the development of new tech, rather than simply throwing together a device in a matter of minutes. And this isn't the first time this season has demonstrated that attention to detail with Ranger technology. I didn't mention it in my previous reviews, but the modulator in Lost Signal was actually damaged on screen in Destination Dino Henge, when Amelia kicked a henchman straight into it. So between that and the use of Void Knight's energy scanner in Sporix Unleashed, I'm very interested to see what other bits of foreshadowing may have been sprinkled throughout these early episodes. At the very least, seeing Boom Tower successfully secure a superpowered Sporix egg is definitely an important step in the progression of Void Knight's plans, simultaneously serving as a bittersweet victory for the Rangers that fits very much in line with our lesson of the week about how winning isn't everything. And that being said, I'm definitely getting the impression that Void Knight plays to win. Now it just remains to be seen what the cost of that victory will eventually be. So make sure to join me next time for a deeper look at Episode 6 of Power Rangers Dino Fury, Superstition Strikes. And if you would like to share this week's rapid run-through, you can find it as a standalone clip over at Morphin Legacy's YouTube channel. Please like, share, subscribe to us both, ring the bell for future notifications, and until next time, farewell Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.